Wow. It's so crazy that I'm saying 2024, January 2nd, already in 2024. Welcome to Heart Centered Marketing. It's so odd that we were just off last week. This is the only week in 4 years, I think I've been doing this show, that we've ever taken off the Tuesday. And it was kind of weird to be in that situation. And you even had people messaging me and saying, "Hey man, is there a show today?" Which is so cool because so many people know that we do this. It's like it's a staple in their world, and I'm so grateful for you. So thank you, and I'm so grateful for my two amazing friends and guests today, Lorna and Eddie. Thank you for being here. Happy New Year! Happy New Year to everyone else. How are you doing? I'll start with Lorna.
Oh, I'm doing great. I am totally pumped and confident with what 2024 is going to be like. I'm
Very
working
good.
on some exciting new things, and there's opportunities showing up, and I absolutely love it.
I love that, Eddie, my man. Oh, we lost his audio. Guest
You
is
lost
muted.
my audio because I needed to unmute.
That makes a lot of sense. There we go.
So awesome. Well, happy new year to both of you, Lorna, Joey. You guys are amazing in my world. I'm really glad to know you and be part of that community. And yeah, I'm with you, Lorna. This year, it's a year of creating myself. You know, I'm not even going to say recreating, but it's just creating myself. So that's going to be the theme for me for this year.
Nice. I love
But
that.
Yeah.
you can, you know what? This is one of those weird things that happened. Do you know? I don't know if you ever scroll on Facebook and you get those like look in all these nut letters and pick, find your three words for you or whatever it is. Well, I did one because it's just sometimes fun. But I've decided I'm going to keep the words. The four words that popped out for me were creation, power, strength, and purpose. And when I
Wow.
look at those and think about 2024, I think they are perfect for me.
They are.
Absolutely.
I love
Yeah.
that.
I have my little sticky note here. I'm going to go the right way. My notes that I look at it every day. Like that's I believe where I'm headed. So
That's
I
amazing. I
agree
love
with
that.
that creation, Eddie. I believe about that creation. It's going to be a great year for
Yeah.
You
creation.
got it. You got it.
And I just want to give some Happy New Year shouts out to Cheryl, who's here. Happy New Year. Great things ahead.
Hey,
Absolutely. Good
Cheryl.
to see you. Our
Hi,
Facebook
Cheryl.
user. I don't know who the Facebook user is, and there's no comment there, but whoever you are, hi. Thank you for watching the show. Thank you for being here live. If you are live, by the way, let us know with a hashtag live or a hashtag replay if you're watching the replay. And there it is, our Facebook user. This is probably Collie because of the call. Great to see you here, Collie. Thanks for being here. All right.
Wow. Cool
We
stuff.
were, yeah. Um, just before we got on the air, we were just in the green room talking about commitment and courage and some of the things that Dan Sullivan talks about, the four C's, which is commitment, yeah, commitment, courage, competence, and confidence. And this is so important. I think it'll lead into today's discussion because uh, the first two, which are commitment to what you're doing, to making a choice, a decision, and then having the courage to stick it through, are the hardest parts. And I think that we're all going through this. We've all been through it, and we're all going through this. What do you guys think about that?
It is. I'm telling you right now, it is the hardest part. Um, the hardest part is to really believe that you that I'll say me that I have this specific calling. That's the hardest part. Like, how can it be that me and the entire world and the entire Florida and the entire community and the entire neighborhood can have a specific calling? And it was really difficult for me to believe that. But the interesting thing is, like, every time I keep coming back to it, like, there's no escaping. So it's that commitment, right? Is Am I going to commit 100%, or do I need to learn more and find and make sure that this is the right thing, right?
Yeah, you see, like you just proved what Dan is saying, right? Like you're, and this is not a dig to you or anybody else, but it's the truth, and it's so hard for us to see it because you just said, I'm gonna commit if I understand if it's really the right thing for me, which is competence, which is the third level in, right? The only time that we get competence is after we commit and after we get the courage, which is why it's so difficult for so many people, which is why so many people give up because they want the competence first. And more than likely, they want the confidence in it. Like, oh, this is going to work. This is absolutely cool. Now I can commit. Now I can do this, right? It's
Yeah,
such
that's it.
an, it's,
That's it. It's
and
such it's such
being
a
caught there.
it's yeah, it's so it's uncomfortable. I will tell you that. It's
Yeah,
very uncomfortable because you're right. I am the type of person that I need to know the mission. I need to know where I'm heading and the plan. I need to know how to get there. Well, this time it's not like that. It's like I just need to know the vision really, but it's like there's no plan yet. There's no next action yet. It's just believe it. Just believe that
right,
there's
right.
there's something out there. You just need to start walking towards it. And it's like, man, and it goes back to it goes back to all of our history. I enjoy reading my Bible, and I'm telling you, in there, it is everywhere. It's like God tells Abraham, get out of your family, get out of their country, and go. And he's like, where? Go, and
Yeah,
I'll tell you.
yeah, just go, and the
Yeah.
destination will show up.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And it's everywhere. It's like every single story that people have been called on, and you can see history from time after time. So it's to me personally. I'm sure. Hopefully, someone can relate to this because to me, I never think, oh, that's me. That's I've been called, so I need to go. No, that's like in the book. So that's in history. That happens to Joey or Dan Sullivan, or that happens to them, not me. But no,
Mm,
it happens to all of us. It's just we do we have an open heart, right? Because that's what I needed to do. I've always had an open heart to receive. I'm very optimistic, and I believe I've always believed that there's something more to than to just doing something, to just meeting someone or doing something. So you have to have a heart ready to receive. But then that's the hardest part, Joey, right? And Lorna, we're talking about this. It's like, oh, how do I know this is right?
that's
Oh
exactly,
man.
yeah. What about you, Lorna?
Well, I think some of our viewers and listeners may have already heard a lot of this, but that's what I've spent the last year trying to figure out. And to, you know, and interesting enough, I ended up a year later back in almost a very similar place to where I left a year ago.
Yeah,
So I feel like I was sent out into the wilderness for more than 40 days. I would think I was in the 300-day span, people, of being out in the wilderness waiting for the answers to show up, and
yeah,
trying to figure it out. And going through those ups and downs of confidence, and feeling confident, but sometimes it really wasn't confidence. It was, um, well, sometimes it was Pollyanna. She's one of my alter egos that I deal with from time to time. You have your doubting Dan, Joey, and I have Pollyanna, who says, "Well, you think it's a good idea, and it's going to work. Like, of course, it's going to work. Like, everyone's going to love it. You don't have to do all the things you need to do. You just need to go do this. You can miss all the steps, which doesn't work.
yeah,
Um, that that first step of making a commitment, um, I think is so important. And however the year showed up, my commitment all along, which I never really thought of until this moment, was to get something figured out that I could come alive with. And that didn't happen till November. And when it finally happened, I had like 4 major downloads in a week. And not that was the week that I had my grandsons overnight, and I had the 4-year old crawled into bed with me about 2:30 in the morning, and he's using me as a pillow, and I'm got my phone typing the download that I'm getting
Mm-hmm.
while he's sleeping. um,
Mm-hmm.
and yet it's interesting because with that download that came about the through line, that brought confidence. So I don't know where that fits in the sequence, because maybe there's some going back and forth, like it's not totally linear, like it goes back and forth. Because if I talk about that,
Yep.
I 100% believe that will change marketing for online coaches,
Mm-hmm.
that it will change how this number of students they can get in their program. I absolutely believe that. I have every confidence in that. And then I go back to do the work, and then it slips back to, um, really, like, this is, and you've said this all along, in when you choose, like when you're doing what you love to do. I look at it and go, it's so simple. Like, how could I turn this into a whole program? Because to me, it's so simple and easy. But that doesn't mean that it is for anybody else.
That's where the
Um,
competence comes in.
yeah. So, and because it's new, I haven't tested it. I totally believe it because I've used it in different places, but I got no data. Like, I didn't do any tracking. I've got no data on it. Um, but I go back and forth on that, in that whole, like, where am I? Like, I'm an imposter, and who wants to hear this anyway? Like, I still have those little things that
So
come up, and yet,
then would you say that you're in the courage trap of it?
um, yeah, I think what the courage part that I'm in is the who. I've got all this great idea, but I'm and I know the who, the what, and working on the how I'm gonna share this with people. But it's like, so who are the people I'm going to share it with again? Like, I know the who's, but that
Well,
it's the
from what
courage
you
to
just
take
said,
that.
I just heard that the imposter syndrome piece of it, I'm an imposter, is
Yeah,
part of the courage,
yeah,
right? Is stepping
it,
out and saying, "This is it. This is what I believe,"
yeah,
and then not worrying about what the world is going to say, and maybe also at the same time, this is an offer. I'm going to put it out an offer and see what happens, like that kind of stuff. That's where the courage part comes in because you've already
yeah,
committed. And I remember, like for me, it's kind of like as I'm hearing in this discussion, this is why I like having these brainstorm discussions, and hopefully everybody else is benefiting from this as well. And please put in the comments if you are wanting some feedback or discussion and
mhm,
whatever it is. It's all good. I'm going to get to you, Kate, in a second because I just want to get this out of my ADD brain, or I'll forget. Uh, as we're going through this conversation, I just realized that we talk a lot about superpowers and the stuff that we think is not a superpower because it's got us into trouble before, or we because we've gotten
mhm.
trouble for doing it before. We think that that's not a good sign. And just in this conversation, my stubbornness to be to prove something wrong is actually it's not a great character trait, right? But it's damn good for entrepreneurship because that when I think about this, I'm like, okay, when I committed to doing something, it was I had no plan, like Eddie you talked about, and the courage was I had to get to the courage, but and again I didn't know this back then, but I had the commitment because I'm going to go do this, and I would always get challenged, especially from my father, like how are you going to do that? How's that going to work? So he wanted to see the plan as well, and I would say I have no idea, but this is what I'm gonna do, and I'll figure it out. So I was committed to doing it, and I guess I had a little bit of the courage already, but moving toward the competency of like, well, this is how it's going to work. This is what it's going to do, and then later on so whether that's you know, I think it helps me.
But yeah, because yeah, I
You
mean,
know me,
really,
like you know that that's the way
yeah,
I.
yeah, but you know what? I mean, you just said it. And I think it helps. It helps me. It helps everyone. Pay attention to what Joey just said, and I'm actually going to type it even here in the comments on LinkedIn because I have to agree 100%. If you are stubborn, there may be a chance you've got an entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah, it's just you got to kind of know when to let that stubbornness go. That's where I got to learn a little bit more. That's where I got to
Right.
grow up.
Right.
But it's more on the okay. But when it comes to the stubbornness, if I know I'm going through that, no one's going to tell me that I'm wrong. Forget you, man. I'm doing this right.
Yeah. Yeah. So no, it's awesome, man. But um, I want to go back to what Lorna was saying, and I think it's really going to help us to dive into what we were really going to talk about, because that post that you wrote really got my attention a lot. As you know, I sent a repost on that.
Yeah, thank
But
you.
the what do you call it? I lost my train of thought. What's
Commitment.
it? What did you say? No, the uh, sabotaging, right?
Ah, okay.
What's it called?
My
Right?
saboteur.
The
So
saboteur, right? So
okay.
that's basically what happens, right? Like we tend to sabotage when we go through some ups and downs on, should I do this? Why am I called to do this? I don't know if I can do this. And yes, everybody says you can, but then you're like, oh, I don't know. And so, with all of that said, it reminds me of how you and I, Joey, when I first met you, I was actually there as well, thinking, man, if this guy can do it, so can I. But then as I dived into it more, it's like, I just don't fit. I don't know what's going on. Like, what's happening here? Am I really good? Am I not good? Should I do this? Should I not? So I want you to help us understand, how do you know if you are at least in the path that you were meant to be, right? Like, how do you know that?
That's a really great question. Um, wow. That's a
Yeah, because remember, because Lorna, you said it even before, like you said, well, gee, if you're called to do something and you just can't seem to ignite that business or that program or that launch that course that you want, if you're gonna do something on the side, you should do something that you're actually connects to what you're about to do, right? So, but how do you know, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, is there a way to know, am I in the path to, at least to get me closer, right?
mm-hmm,
And you got me
mm-hmm.
thinking of all this, because stubbornness coming to that place. You can be stubborn, but darn it, what if you're stubborn and everybody else is right, or they're kind of telling you, dude,
Yeah,
you're in the wrong
that's
place.
Getting
yeah,
there,
that's yeah.
getting there.
So, what's the saying, Lorna? Like, if somebody tells you once or twice, like you say it all the time,
Oh, if someone calls you a horse, it's like, oh well. If two people call you a horse, you might want to prick your ears up. And if 10 people call you a horse, you better go buy a saddle.
right? Yeah. So that's kind of it, Eddie. Is like, at least for me, and but I just want to give shouts out to Kay. Thank you for acknowledging Lorna and Eddie as well. Thank you for being here. I know that you're on the right path as well. Kay, you've been so amazing, and same as Collie. Is this Collie? I'm not sure if this is Collie or not, but live stubbornness. Stubborn to serve ego or stubborn to serve others. One serves us, the other diminishes us. Yeah, stubborn to serve. Yeah.
Hmm.
So this is brilliant. This is kind of where I was going with this, which is where my ego got in the way. Which is why. So, I've said this a few times before, that I have these notices that come up on my phone every day since 2014, and the third or fourth one during the day is. Ego is your enemy. It actually comes up every single day to remind me, get out of your ego, Joey. So thank you for saying this. I can't remember. Julie, great, fantastic. Thank you, Julie. So that's the thing, Eddie, is the stubbornness, if it's your ego in the way, that's where we have to be very aware of it. To say, no, you're wrong because I'm right. And there's a point where if you're not listening to anybody, especially when 10 people are calling you a horse, that's a challenge, right?
Yeah.
That's a challenge. So I don't know if I have the right answer about when do you know it's right, But I definitely can tell you, because I know that I am on the right path, that it is definitely a feeling. It is definitely something that is burning, a desire burning within you that you know. But it doesn't mean that it's, rainbows every day. Like, it doesn't mean that at all. There's still doubt almost every week. Like, should I still do this? Am I still on the right path? So I don't think it ever really goes away, that doubt.
So Joey, you go through that still.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
Wow.
100%.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that, Joey?
That's the thing. We're talking about commitment. It goes right back to commitment and courage, because and so this is a good question, because once you've gone through that loop at least once you've hit competence, like, I'll talk about it from the Atlas point of view, because remember when I first introduced it, people laughed at me, people told me I was crazy, all these other things. I'm like, I'll show you, right? So that was my commitment piece. And then I got the courage and I just did it, which is where the umbo came from, my out of your butt offer. That's what it's called, the umbo, out of my butt
Umbo.
offer. I'm like, here, what is it? I'm not even going to think about it. Here's the offer, whatever. No planning it. Just like put something together and put it out. People bought it. And they're like, there's some courage. I did that. And then it finally worked. And then I got the confidence, because now it's working and now people are getting results and all that. Right. So now, coming to your question, because I've gone through that loop at least once or twice, when I fall back into, should I be doing this, I already can go right to the confidence piece of it. I'm already confident because I can go back to data now and say, well, look at all these people. Or I can go back to, and it sounds crazy maybe, but to my notes of a screenshot of somebody saying Atlas changed my life, or thank you for doing this, or whatever, that gives me the again, more competence or encouragement or courage to keep going forward, even though it might be a slow time or whatever. Does that make sense?
Makes
But that,
sense.
so that's how I do it now, because I've gone through it. But the hardest part for anybody who's not gone through the first this whole loop, is those first two. So I would say that if you're in that place, you have to be more open to people calling you a horse, right? Now, back then, one or two people might have called me a horse, but I didn't believe them, and that was the only two.
Mhm.
And that was it. Like, okay,
Mhm.
they're wrong. Is this making sense?
It makes
So
sense.
I have a couple of different takes on it,
Cool.
Joey.
Go ahead.
Um, I think, well, you said is totally true. There's a feeling, um, and I have I look at it as, and I've been reading more and hearing more, different people's take on your purpose, and I do believe there is like a higher purpose that we
Yes.
have, and I wish I had mine up. I'm thinking I don't even have it right on my wall, which I used to have, and I don't know why. But I mean, it's basically to use my creativity and intuition to help people experience um, either peace, hope, joy, and love for the highest good of all concerned. And that to me is my overall purpose. And maybe I can throw in compassion and empathy in there somewhere because I get that feedback all the time. That where it comes down to is we can express it in different ways. And this conversation today has been wonderful because it's just unlocked another piece for me.
I
Because
love when that happens.
it showed up in the marketing piece, and hearing like more people talk about experiments, and like, so you start off with one thing, like you may not find that total thing that is absolutely 100% right for you until you start something and find out what fits and what doesn't, and you drop it, and it's an adjustment. It isn't um, it isn't something that just all of a sudden, like one day there's this light bulb and it's totally clear. Like
Right.
we
Right.
have to take those steps, um, just like people in the Bible did. Like they did things without question. I mean, how many things did Job go through without, just did it without knowing what the outcome was? And if he knew what his outcome was, he may never have taken that first step, and all those things would have been a much shorter book. But it's uh, so. I think I'm more comfortable in knowing that just by taking action in a direction, and that comes both from the marketing piece. I mean, it comes from the personal development work that I've been trained in, and it also comes from faith. Like faith asks you to just take that first step and have the faith that if it's the wrong step, you're going to get an answer,
Mm-hmm.
and and you're going to be led in a different direction. And um, I mean, if there's like numerous little pieces that I've learned from Rich Sheffrin, and that was one was you're never going to get anywhere unless you're in action. Like you can't figure this out without taking action. Um, and it took me a long time to be able to do anything with that. And the whole thing with the widows in the middle of the summer was a good thing of just it was a commitment to it. I had a knew what I wanted to be able to make the next decision, and that's where it came to that. But I think this whole thing is how do you know if it's right? I think it just has to be right for today. Um, and and you do get a feeling like the difference between the ideas that came up between this time last year and November were I would just call like I was dead. Like there was nothing that excited me. It's like, yeah, I could do that. Yeah, I could do that. And that ended up leading to me underscoring what my skills and abilities were. Um, I did one exercise where it's like, yeah, I could do this for a business, but everything I wrote down was, but I'm not the best graphic designer, but I'm not the best, but I'm not that like I totally sabotaged myself in that thinking. But when those downloads came, like I just got super excited. Like without knowing exactly how it's going to show up. And I think I just pulled up in the last hour, like 4 different documents of ideas that I'm still working at putting together. So it's not like it's 100% clear on where it's going to go. And I've got some decisions to make, but that feeling of excitement. And when I sit there and think about working with online coaches with this, I am so excited about it. So there is something that has opened my heart
Mm-hmm.
up to that, and it's so different. But do I know that this is really the thing? It's the thing for now. And if it's not the thing, the next something's going to show up to show me where to go from here.
Very cool. Kay says that she found that when it is right, it feels aligned at this deep, soulful place versus ego place across all areas of my life, and not in the biz arena. I love that. And experimentation, right on, is definitely part of it. Finding what works for you and your client, absolutely. And as you both were talking, because you touched on a couple of words, and it's kind of uncanny, Lorna, that, and I think Eddie, you said these words as well. I just pulled up a document because I just saw this yesterday, for some reason, about purpose. You guys both mentioned the word purpose, and I think this is a huge part of it. You both touched on it, and from this word, this is from the book, The Secret Words of Success, and the first secret word that they talk about is purpose. And when you have a purpose of everything, that's what goes before anything. And here's the reason I'm telling you this is because, and I'm reading this from the notes, which is people often get confused with their why. Like, what's your why? And they think that that's the purpose, but that's not the purpose. Why you do something is because of your purpose. And I thought that was really impactful.
Yeah.
So if you don't know what your purpose is, then it's going to be really hard to figure out your why. And I know that for a long time, listening to Simon Sinek and what's your why? What's your why? I'm like, I don't know what my why is. And as soon as I figured out what I was put on this earth to do, the why became clearer. Why do I do Atlas? Why do I focus on groups? Why do I simplify my business? Why do I focus on all those things? Is because of the purpose, which is I just want to help entrepreneurs stop sacrificing their lives. That's it. That's the purpose, period. But I do what I do, the why I do groups and suggest all that and focus on dream clients over just market to everybody. Like all these things I do because of the purpose. And if you want to have some input on this, I'd love to hear it as well. But I want to share the other 2 words because there's a whole bunch of them here. But you both hit on these. The next one is direction. So number 2 is direction, and I think you both said that. right? So you have purpose and then you have direction. And then the third one, which coincides, which is meaning. The idea to having meaning in your life is important. So why are you doing what you're doing? Having meaning because it's the meaning of being here. It's of why you're here to do things. Those are the three top ones. And I can go on and on. And I recommend everybody buy the book. Not that I have any affiliation with it, but
That's really good. What's the name of the book?
it's called The Secret Words of Success. Yeah. And who's it by? It is by Shad Helmstetter. Shad Helmstetter.
So, I mean, I really like that way of talking about purpose, and think that's a little bit of maybe, or maybe even more than a little bit of what I talked about expressing your purpose. Like there's a difference, like there's a purpose. So when I talked about my purpose in that bigger, higher level,
Mm-hmm.
I expressed that purpose for years helping family caregivers.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, to Eddie's point about how do you know if you're on the right path? And I don't have an answer for this. So like maybe there's other people who can chime in to give me some, I'm not going to, this isn't something that takes up a lot of my brain space at the moment, but I'd likely have a few things to resolve about looking at leaving that world. And, but that like on the right path to me, I mean, I know I was serving my purpose, but it wasn't a business. And I tried to make it a business. And that's been one of those things that's been like challenging to sort out. And when you talked about the being stubborn, like that's a case where being stubborn helped me to a point, but it held me back because I had people telling me this isn't
Right.
a business, this isn't a business. I had like Reed Tracy, the CEO of Hay House, tell me that this isn't going to be a business. And I still tried for another 10 months before I gave in because I was so committed to it. So
Mm-hmm.
it's taken me a while to figure out how to still have that passion to help because I believe there is something there for me to help them, but the business isn't the right way to do it. So, and I can't help them if I don't have a business because I don't have money. I can't look after me. So how can I look after anybody else? And to even have to admit at some point that I would likely die helping them before I would die helping me, which is not to sound valiant at all, or boastful in any way. I think it's a dangerous way to think, and it's a dangerous way to live, to think in some ways to do that. So that's been part of my year of trying
Mm-hmm.
to sort out like why can't I, like why, and going back to some of the things I learned. So like going back to Eddie's point from the beginning, sometimes it feels like a right path. Like I had lots of good things going on that gave me lots of good feedback, but there's something there that just wasn't. It still wasn't right for something,
Yeah.
and yeah. Anyway, that
Let's switch gears here and talk about the like we were yesterday. There was a post that I put out, and Eddie, you responded to it, and it was this. It has to it ties into what we're talking about here, but it was the Achilles heel of like the business of where I focus in on like here's what the problem is, and do you want to talk about this for a second, Eddie, and then introduce it, or maybe you
Yeah.
can start the conversation.
Yeah, so definitely. So what captured my attention about that was the way you helped me see different what marketing is, and without the hype. So here's what caught my attention, that you said here that marketing is not about attracting everyone, which I knew that, but the next part is what really closed that in. It's about repelling 85% of the market. See,
Yeah.
that's what caught my attention. Yes, now it makes sense, right? So marketing is not about attracting everyone. I've heard that. I've heard the hype about that. But why? Right? So it's about repelling 85% of the market. And that's to me, that actually blew up another way of saying things, because how I see sales, for example, I always think about rethinking sales. That's what I say. That's my thing. Like rethink sales, because I'm on a mission. Like my purpose is to actually reverse that trend of treating clients like transactions, right? So, but you have to rethink sales. Well, when I read this, I'm like, oh shoot, we now have to rethink marketing.
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah. And
But yeah, that's what caught my attention, and that's what I think. It was very good article. I reshared that,
thank
reposted
you.
that, because it's really important for this year, if you're looking to do anything with marketing, which you should always uh see it this way, and it's going to make a lot more sense.
Thank you, man. And it's funny because that article yesterday, and I think I talked about it right at the top of it, came from a conversation that I had, and just kind of rewrote the conversation. Got permission to do it, but it happened yesterday. That conversation, it wasn't anything that was a long time ago, and it was like, this is really good. I mean, it talks about a lot of things we're talking about today, which is like, I'm committed to what I believe, which is how to simplify people's lives and all that, right? And so I can never take my coaching hat off. And I think I even said that in the conversation with this person. I said, sorry, this is just who I am. I can't stop coaching, right? Whether you ask for coaching or not, this is just who I am. Thankfully, they were thankful about that. And then there is the piece of the the clarity on knowing who you're talking to and repelling 85% of the market. And today I even got a message from somebody who wanted to, or did exit my world, not in a bad way, not in a bad way, but they just said, you know what, I don't think that this is in alignment with me right now, because what you talk about is this, like dream clients and higher price products and all the stuff that I talk about, and I'm not there yet. I'm not aligned with that yet. I want to do this other thing. So it wasn't a bad message, but it proves to you what I'm saying, that I repelled that person. And repel doesn't mean get out of my life. I don't like you and all that kind of stuff. It just means that what you do is not right. So I'm not wasting that person's time. They're not wasting time in my world, right? Listening to stuff that is going to confuse them even more, because they're like, wait a second, this guy's talking about that. And I'm over here this guy's talking about that. And I become a distraction. So my marketing doesn't do anything, even if that person, and I want everybody to hear this, because yes, your marketing, if you're doing the opposite and you're trying to attract more people, and you might get a message here and there and somebody responding to you, and you're like, wow, this is actually working, I should keep doing this. But it's not actually moving the person forward. All you are is a distraction, because they listen to you for 1 day or 2 days, and then they do the same thing to somebody else another couple days over there, and you're not seeing that, but you're not actually helping them. You're worsening. Is that the right word? you're, it is now. You're
Worsening.
worsening
It is then.
their path, because you're a distraction, and I don't want to be a distraction in anybody's life. I want them to be, this is what Joey does, and he does it really, really well, and that's it. If you want this, go to Joey, right? And so that's where the commitment piece comes in, to say, this is all I'm going to talk about. This is all I'm going to do. And the courage is, well, sometimes it's not going to work, and it's going to be scary when there's no money coming in, and all these other things that we talked about with the 4 C's. So that's kind of where
Yeah, yeah, no,
this
and
starts.
everything is aligned to, because I started, one of the questions immediately after reading that article is, well, darn it, I need to make sure I'm clear about who my audience is, right? Or who
Right.
that 85% of people that are going to be repelled by my message. I need to understand my why and my purpose behind my why, and so it's kind of everything's tying down to that, and one of the things that you talk about in that article too was very important, very crucial, which so happened that I saw that a couple of times this over the weekend, is focusing about that one thing.
Yeah.
That one, the book, the one thing,
The one thing.
or yeah, I saw, I got a glance at the book again this weekend, but yeah, that's very important. So knowing, having that confidence, being committed to your why for the reason of your purpose will definitely help your audience to be very clear about, oh, that's what Joey does, right?
Yeah.
That's what
And
Lorna does.
One
no,
other
and
thing
so
too I
forth.
want to interject here is another proof of this, because a lot of this stuff happens behind the scenes, so you just gotta kind of trust me when I'm telling you this. But it's like when you see somebody, and by the way, you rarely will see anybody actually respond or send you an email or send you a message and say, I'm kind of opting out of your stuff. Like they're not, unless they're mad at you or whatever and they want to diss you, which that might happen. It hasn't, thankfully, to me yet. But they usually opt out and they're gone, whatever. But this was a really good message. Like, hey, we're not aligned and this is kind of what I'm doing and why, right? Like, hey, thank you. But and so that might discourage people. But to me, I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for when people opt out of stuff because it doesn't align with them again because of the distraction. Now, here's the reason I'm telling you this. Because yesterday as well, someone I've known for many years, reaches out and says, I want to book a call with you to help me do this, like what I do, right? And they said, because I know you've been doing this for years and you know what you're talking about. So, what does that tell you? I'm not trying to stand on a soapbox here. It's telling you that the message that I'm saying over and over and over again, people are hearing it. And the ones that don't align with it repel and they just stop listening or shut the channel off or whatever, right? Opt out of my list. But the ones in the background are like, huh. And it remember, and then when they need that, when they get to that crisis point, which this person is, get to that crisis point, they reach to me and say, he's the person. Because that's all he does. And I didn't have to do any sale, didn't have to do anything else. They just said, how do I give you money? And what kind of money is it? Basically. And that's what I'm saying. When you do this stuff, you have the commitment and courage to step into what you do and believe because you have the purpose. Everything begins to align. But it's so hard to prove that to yourself and to others. Like me telling you the story, you're like, yeah, okay, really. Like you could either think I'm full of it or not, or believe me because maybe you do, right?
Yep. Yeah, and that's it.
I think there's where people can get tripped up though is that they may look at a or they look at their purpose and again take if you took mine if that was a way that people saw their purpose, and even the way that you see your purpose, Joey, is that it could help everyone or almost everyone, so that the purpose can become clear of what they want to do, but the people that they're most meant to help isn't always clear because they
Yeah,
fear that they're not going to have enough people. They fear that they're going to leave people out. Sometimes it's the empathy and the compassion that I don't want to, if somebody comes to me and I can help them, I don't want to say no. But it's hard to help a garage mechanic and an online coach at the same time. Just the
right,
same as the surgeon for your shoulder surgery
right,
isn't like going to help you if you have a brain tumor. Like they're
right.
surgeons, they're medical professionals, but they're very clear on who they help.
Yeah. And to your point, that other doctor can still talk about the brain tumor under, like they can have a conversation, but would you hire them? Would you, like, they don't, if they've never done it? It's,
Well,
it all goes
and
back
I
to all kinds of different things. Like you can have a
yeah.
conversation and be knowledgeable in certain things, but be very clear on who you can help and why you can help them. And I want to come back to what you just said before. After, just let me give some credit here to Kay. She
Mhm.
says that I'm hearing you really emphasize the importance of discernment, Joey, in really making sure potential clients are aligned with what your superpowers are. 100%. It's always
Yeah.
about that for me, Kay. That's what it is. It's about you being clear on what you do and why. And I'm always getting clearer, Kay. I'm not. I will not stand here and say I am absolutely crystal clear. I am very close to it. And I think that even in 10 years I'll be saying the same thing. I'm very close to it, right? But even Lorna, we had a discussion today, and you even said to me, like, you're clearer. Like the thing you just posted is a lot clearer
Yeah.
than what you would have posted 2 months ago. And why is
Yeah.
that? It's only because I'm having these conversations again and again and again that force me to either commit to what I am saying or not. And I commit. I talk about the same thing again and again. And if the conversation, if I wasn't committed, I could maybe turn it into like, well, maybe I could sneak this one through. Maybe I'll just let this guy through, let girl through, because it's not really the same thing. And I've actually lost more business in the last 2 months, 3 months because of that commitment or being very clear. However, something like yesterday shows up and like, hey, how do I give you money? Right? It's like the only reason that would have happened is because I stayed true to what I believe and on the same path. Now, the one thing I wanted to bring up here, and this is something I never forgot. Uh, I don't remember who the original source of it, and maybe this is the original source, but I'll give credit to George Bryant. He's the one that told me this first. Um, it was about helping everybody. Like, how do you help everybody? So the analogy is this: uh, you're on a cruise ship or everything else, and the cruise ship goes down. There's a whole bunch of people in the water, right? And you can only take on so many people on the boat or whatever, right? Who do you help? How do you choose? How do you
Hmm.
choose who to bring onto the lifeboat? Does any of you
Hmm.
have the answer?
You watch the Titanic.
Well, who do you help? You have the boat, right? And
The
there's hundreds and hundreds of people. How do you know which ones to help? And anybody else in the
the
comments? Like,
the
The ones that,
I will say the closest ones.
I'd say the ones that are easiest to help.
mm, not not not
Close.
not. Yeah, it's a little close. Uh, okay, the answer.
And it's not the cute ones.
No, no. First of all, I'll go to Kay because I'll give somebody else some chances to maybe comment what the answer is. So, do you want to read that, Eddie?
I can't see it.
Oh, you can't see
I
it?
can see it now. Not now. I
Okay.
can. Kay says, "I love that it's a process of layers to align. I have more clarity to thanks to Academy and taking 2023 to realign everything with my new super niche." Ooh, that sounds interesting, Kay. And it feels really solid. Still tweaking, as you say, but so much deeper in the past. I like that, Kay. Now I want to know what it is. You got me curious. It's curiosity now.
Well, you'll see her next week in Academy, man.
Oh, that's awesome.
Lorna, you want to read that one?
Sure. Kay says you help the ones who be most impacted by being saved and who are the easiest to save. Well,
The-
I mean, I could
She
triage them
said,
if you want. What you save first, the code greens, then you go to code yellow, then you go to code red and the code blacks. You don't like,
"Wait, so what's the real answer?"
yeah, these are close. Okay, you're gonna kick yourself for this one, but anyway, the real
Oh
answer
boy.
is the ones who are swimming toward you.
oh,
Isn't that cool? Because you're out there saying I can help you, and everyone else is defending. They're like, no, 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 you're too expensive. You're too this. You're too that. Whatever. But the ones swimming towards you are the ones you can help the easiest and the fastest because they're moving toward you, and that's what dream clients are all about. That's what the commitment is all
Hmm.
about. Staying true to like, okay, if you don't want to swim, here you're shouting, you're going, hey, da da da. And if you don't want to listen and you want to sit there in the water and freeze to death, that's your choice. I can't help you.
yeah.
Isn't that powerful?
That is. That is.
So think about
It's a
that
good.
whenever you think about you, and I'm talking to you, everyone, right? When you think, how can I help all of these people? You can't. And the only way you can choose is the people who are swimming toward you, swimming towards the
But
boat.
I, I totally agree with that. And the people that I've seen who stay in that place of, but I still want to help everyone, will put themselves in place in different places where there are people swimming towards them because they can help everyone. So because they're not focused on one, that they're one, the one thing, they might go to I don't know. Now I'm really going to grasp off the top of my head. They might go to
Yeah,
amusement.
yeah, I feel you grasping for this one
You might go to
Wait,
but it could be brilliant by the time I'm done.
for sure.
That's why live. Stream is so much fun. But they might go to the amusement park and find three people swimming towards them. And then they might go to church and find three people swimming towards them. They might go to the opera
Yeah.
and find people coming towards them. And they can help each one of those, but the people in each of those three groups have different pains and problems. So they're still spreading themselves thin because they haven't decided yet where to, like, which pool to hang out with or which place to hang out with.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think, I
So
mean, this goes back to the top of what we started talking about with the courage and competence, because I think that's what happens as you get more, you have the commitment and you have more courage. Then that courage leads to the discernment that Kay talked about, of being able to say, I'm not, I can help you and I could help you, and I'm not the best person for you. The
Mm-hmm.
best person for you is, here's two or three names for you to check out if you can, if you can. Um, and we used to have to, I think somewhere in my counseling career, we had to do that in different programs that I worked in, saying, yes, that we do help some of these problems, but we aren't the best person for you.
Right. Right.
This is what you need right now. So it's that little diagnosis. But I think that we can put ourselves in places where we feel that we get the confirmation that we are meant to help all these different people.
Yeah, I hear this. I kind of talked about this in with that person yesterday, and I want to get to that. But Eddie, you had something to interject first, right?
yeah, actually, and I think you're gonna cover it, Joey. But I've got to say, Lorna, you by describing what you were basically getting to, which is different places, different locations, different individuals swimming towards you, and then getting overwhelmed because you're so spread out thin.
Yeah.
Joey said it at the beginning, which you need to talk about this more, Joey, because we're almost going in reverse, right? Reverse engineering everything. And you mentioned at the beginning, you said that everyone thought you were crazy for doing for with what you were doing, and you gather people around this idea, and then it became what you have now.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what you mean. You had those cohorts, and little by little you build it based on how you were showing up to them. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what Lorna got me thinking is, yes, they can come from many different places, but if you stay true to who you are and where you're at, and you show up to support, you'll figure out eventually, like Joey, you need to
Mhm.
explain to us better, clearer, but you'll figure out eventually that this is the people who actually want and need and want and are doing something with the help that you're giving.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and to Lorna's analogy, like I don't know where you're thinking of it because of where I look at it from both points. And again, there's a billion ways that we could analyze this, but two of them is with the fact that if you are going to the amusement park and helping somebody there, what are you helping them do? Yeah, because the pains and problems are different. So they want to learn how to ride the roller coaster better. So you're better at that. And you're like, I can help you. And then you go to church and they want to learn how to read the Bible better. So that's a different destination. So I don't know how the analogy in your mind was. And if they're all different distant destinations, yeah, you can help them because you've got all these skills. That's one problem, and you can
Yeah.
definitely do that. On the other hand, were you thinking that way, Lorna, or were you
No,
thinking,
that's how I was thinking, is that it's really different destinations, but because you still help them. And
yeah,
luckily coaches are like, I mean, that's most of the world that I'm in was with online coaches. So I see that in so many ways where you just know you can help what you have can help everyone. The skills that Kay has could help everyone, but she's discovered a super niche that she can speak to, and it makes things really easy. So it
well,
is just
no,
that
I mean you just contradicted what you said.
oh, well, I didn't mean to. Then I need
Because
to restate it. Then I need
yeah,
to restate it.
because you
It's
that's why I asked you what did you mean? Did you mean that because Kay obviously has other skills other than what she's focused in on now, And yes, her coaching and her meditation, all the stuff that she does can help a
Hmm.
broad amount of people too. But then she's narrowed down. But then there's other skills outside of that she does, I'm pretty sure. And that's where I was going with it, what you're saying,
Oh, okay. No,
right?
it was
So,
basically I'm thinking more of what you just said is that, I mean, Kay, we love you. If we can use you for an example,
well, no, let's
is
go back to your analogy. Like, so you go to
is
church, right? And so this is where, okay,
so
so,
I'm going to teach meditation to the people in the amusement park. I'm going to
right,
teach them meditation and visualization so they can successfully ride the roller coaster. And I'm going to teach meditation and visualization to people at church so that they can be more in touch with Jesus and spirit. And
perfect.
like
So let me stop you
that's
there
what I
because
was
people are
thinking.
listening to this and they're going, "Well, Joey, see, that's what we mean. We can do all this stuff." But this was where
No, no,
Atlas comes
no,
in,
no, 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 no,
right?
don't do all the stuff.
This is what I want to touch on because you said very important that there's a destination there. There's a common destination of knowing how to meditate or use meditation or whatever it is to get to their next stage. So where Kay's thing stops is, do you know how to meditate now? Do you know how to bring this into your world to apply it to the next thing? And when the person says yes, her job is over. So you see, there's a complete difference than saying, no, I help people meditate so they can become better churchgoers. I help people meditate so they can become better amusement park goers and ride the roller coasters without throwing up. Like, it doesn't matter. And that's where people need to understand, where does my program end? Where does it stop? Here's what I teach you. It's the same thing as when I talk about the analogy of the crazy analogy I use every month on Kajabi about everyone going to Las Vegas casino. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter what they're going to the casino for, but I'm going to teach you how to beat the casino. That's my job. I don't care what you do with it afterwards, but I'm going to show you how to play cards right. If you have to pay your bills, pay debt, whatever it is, you want to buy a new car, I don't care. Everybody can stay in that room and understand that. Does that make sense? So they can come from
It,
different
it,
walks of life, Lorna. They can
it,
come
it,
from the
it
amusement
does.
park and the church.
It does, but that wasn't my point.
Then what's the point? Because you're contradicting yourself, I think.
No, my point is that my skills can help everyone. So my skills can help somebody ride a roller coaster. My skills can help somebody not necessarily what I'm teaching can help. Um, and maybe that I'm just using the wrong analogy. What I'm trying to say is that when we think that we can help everyone, we help no one because they don't know to swim to us. And I use that
Yeah, I think you
analogy.
gotta. You think you gotta think about the analogy better because
Oh
you're actually
gosh.
saying what I'm.
Okay, go talk about amongst yourselves now.
I
Go
don't know,
talk
Eddie.
about.
What do you see?
I'm
Do
a
you
little
see difference?
verklempt. I'm a
Like,
little verklempt. Come on, go talk amongst
No, I think if I get this right, Lorna, so what
yourselves.
I heard from Lorna and you, Joey, you guys are kind of talking about the same thing. However, the description goes beyond with Lorna based on different scenarios, but she's saying the same thing that you're saying, Joey, is that we need to learn where our superpower, where our service stops, because we can't be everything to everybody, right?
Yeah.
I'll take me for example. I mean, look at me. I can choose to do I can choose to do the marketing part for lead generation. I can choose to do prospecting face to face. I can choose to do being on the sales call, or I can choose to put together software. I know all that stuff, but when does it end for me? That has been a difficult part for me all these past years, because I get excited when I'm thinking, oh, I helped you with this, I can help you with that. But I've noticed that I get more into deeper waters and I get more into trouble with that. It seems like things are not as I thought they would. So, what I'm gathering from both of you is, yes, there are many multiple things that I could do. And yes, they seem to be swimming towards me to be helped, but I need to choose. This is where I stop. Am I going to be the person that just throws that lifesaver at you and that's it? Somebody else is going to pull that rope. or am I going to be the one pulling the rope and have somebody else do the lifesaver? My wife Misty, she has an incredible job, or actually she was working a lot at the ER, and she would, in the ER is crazy, and she will give me all these stories. But what they are taught is that even if you think you're dying, if the person says to you, I'm dying because I'm doing it, they cannot help that person unless how how close to death are you? Basically.
Wow.
It's like are you can like they know, right? Because obviously they're medical professionals, but they know if that person can, they don't want someone to die right there on the floor, so they're going to treat that person first, even though
Yeah.
this other person is
Yeah.
in that level too. So they know where their services stop, right? And who they can help next. Like they are very, very tuned in to what they can do next. And of course, then you have other people that I have my daughter getting braces, for example. We have gone to 4 different dentists. Now, to me, a dentist should take care of everything. No, I did not know that there are specific dentists general, specific dentists for jaw, specific dentists for braces, specific dentists for like surgeries inside.
This
I'm
is a
like,
great analogy,
what?
man. Yeah.
Right? So I was the one swimming, or people are the ones swimming towards that specific area. But I did not know, right, that there's different professionals within one small industry that I thought it was like, why are you sending me to another dentist? So it is the same with you, what you guys are talking about. It's the same thing. And I like what you said, Joey. This is for me, and hopefully it's for somebody else. I need to know where my job ends,
Yeah.
because I can get overwhelmed trying to help everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
And
and I agree, and I still think there's a different there's a if we try to do different things, then that's one thing. Maybe I'm going to try and redeem myself one more time. Better analogy, because this is real true, like from a course. You've got somebody who helps single women,
yeah.
and they want to have single women, divorced women, and widows all in the same group. They're all single women. So it's the same. They're not trying to do anything different with those groups, but those 3 groups have distinct, different pains, problems, dreams, and aspirations. You
Right.
can't put them all in the same group, in the same room, and talk about the same things and have 100% of the same conversations.
Right.
So that's what I was trying to get at. That it is there's so I think I see there's 2 things. There's I can help with marketing, I could help with sales, and I could help with copywriting. I'm not saying I could do all of those things, but somebody could say that. And I think I have. I can help with copywriting. I can help with marketing.
Well,
I'm not
I
like
don't know. From
this
what
is
you said, what I heard was that, well, what about somebody out there listening now who has a lot of skills that can help a lot of people, and they go to church and they can help that church person and the amusement park person and the online business person? They have all these skills. So I was just trying to get clarity on, okay, what do you mean by that? Because there's 2 different ways of looking at it. Well, there's probably more, but the 2 ways I was looking at this was, A, they're all going to the same destination, so it doesn't, those are channels of where you find people or where those people are swimming toward you, so you're
yeah.
going to those channels, and your
Um,
message is the same. Or, which is the guy that I spoke to yesterday, no, I do these skills, and I go to the amusement park and I speak to those people on a couple of days, then I drive over to this place and I go and I talk about this other thing and to those people. And I said to them, I go, look, it doesn't mean it's not going to work, but and this goes back to purpose. Like this, I'm glad we're having this conversation because it's going all around, goes all around to like what this is all meaning. And my purpose is about simplicity. It's about, how do I stop people from sacrificing their lives? Because yeah, you could tell me, this person could tell me like he's making $1 million a day, but are you really truly happy? Do you have a life? Do you have a is your relationships fine? Like all these things. What's your purpose? If their purpose, and again, this is not what we discuss, but just for people to listen, because you could debate and argue that well, this is all working. This is you're wrong. It's not about one thing. True, but what is the purpose? What is the mission? What's your destination? What is it all about for you? For me, it's about freedom, building a life, like all these things, and helping epic humans do the same exact thing. So that's why I'm do this is how I'm doing it. If you want the same type of thing, this is what I'm going to talk about. So I disagree with you. That's why this conversation went yesterday with that person was, look, you asked me at the top of this how your life is going, and I said it's great because I have all my time back. I have 96% of my time freedom. I can do whatever I want to and do what I actually love. And it's an amazing life. And then they asked me, well, why is that? And that's the way we got into that whole discussion.
Yeah.
And then when I got into like, what do you do? And there was only two markets that they were talking about. It's in the, I don't know if you read it
Yeah.
or not, Lorna, but it's
Yeah.
there. And I'm like, well, those are two different things. And you have to adapt. You have to change what you're doing every time you go to the amusement park. It's got to be different than when you go
Mhm.
to the church. And he's like, yeah, you're right. I go, well, that to me is not simplicity. That to me is chaos. Like it just, and so if
Yeah,
you want that, fantastic.
I agree with you. My only point is there's a lot of people who are
In what spot?
in that spot of trying to serve too many people with too many different options.
Right.
So it's not like,
I don't know.
and the reason I say that is so that they will listen to you.
Oh, I didn't hear it that way. I apologize. I thought it was more like, yeah, yes,
Okay.
but there's this other thing over here
Oh,
that
well,
is a rebuttal to what we were saying. So yeah, you're right.
yeah.
If you're saying like, listen, this is
No,
you have to listen to it because if you're doing all these other things, then yeah, I'm happy you said that.
no,
But
it
you
was
know, in uh,
it's not easy, and there are
No.
many people who are stuck in there. That was
Yeah,
the
yeah.
yeah,
that was the
but, but
point.
but that was the point. And you know, in the end, you guys, and this is, I always like to simplify things so I can take action on things. So far, what I've gotten is, first of all, that I need to learn. This is a big one. So thanks, Joey, on that. And thanks, Lord, because you kind of brought all this stuff up. I need to learn when to stop. When does my superpower or service really stops? And I need to actually be committed to that too,
Yeah.
because I don't want to just help more if that's not it. Now, with that said, I've also learned, how do I know when to stop? Well, that brings us back to knowing my purpose, being committed to it, to help me to know my why I'm doing what I'm doing, and to live by faith that I'm doing that one step, I'm taking that one step closer and closer to that next step. There's no end to it. It's just that next step. So this is really cool, man. It's a great topic right now, again, because of the beginning of the year, but more importantly, for me personally, and I know someone out there is listening. I bet you, if you're listening, you were supposed to or meant to listen to all of
Mm-hmm.
this conversation, because not only is a new year, but it's been for the past 3 weeks for myself. I've been in discovery mode, learning deeper things that I didn't even think I had, and realizing that the commitment part is real, and that I need to step in so that I can walk into that path without knowing the destination precisely, but believing that there is a destination too, which so far, what I've learned is the destination is on a daily basis. As long as you love what you do, you know why you do it, and you live life with purpose, I think that kind of covers that. So, really cool stuff. You guys are just amazing.
Yeah, I have a couple of things to add. One, I think that was a beautiful wrap up, Eddie. Like that was beautiful. Um, And just to let you know, you're sure not alone on the when to stop, because
We
I
all
don't
are.
know. There's a lot of things that Joey tells me over and over, and and I was just fighting with it again today. This is what I'm going to do in week blah blah blah. Blah. Just a minute, I'm stopping before then. Like, this isn't my piece.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I get how easy it is, and if there was one thing to add to your summary, would be to be open to feedback. Like, and I don't necessarily mean like asking somebody for feedback. There's feedback comes in all different kinds of ways, and that's how you figure out what that next step is. It is feel what does that feel like when you take these steps, and you know what brings you joy, like what is it, what is the exciting parts and what are the parts that aren't exciting, and that helps you with your discernment. So it's just also paying attention to that, I think, is just part of it. And I don't think it has to be like real formal. I mean, sometimes it is good to have that formal feedback, but I think there's just a lot of different ways to get that feedback.
Yeah,
But it is
100%.
so much connected, so much of it.
Can you read that, Lorna?
Yep. Kay says, I love this. You can serve in a lot of different places as long as your message is aligned to your one thing. Yep.
Yeah, that's what channels means. Like, social media channels and all that. It just goes beyond, like, the analogies that we came up with today or talked about today was really great, because it just gives another perspective of it. And like, if you go to, uh, there's one thing I just wanted to add before we leave is, dang it, it just left my brain. It'll come back. But yeah, dang, it was something
It's
that was
really
important.
good.
I thought it was good. Anyway, uh, yeah, I
That's
think it had
funny.
to do with like the commitment piece of it, wherein Eddie, you were saying, what's the destination, what's the purpose, and all of that. And when I found the thing that really helped me, that I struggled with for many many years, was Eben Pagan, and he said, "Where does your program end?" Like, when I was just learning how to do online programs and all that stuff. That's the part I struggled with. Was, here's where it starts, but where does it end? And I struggled for years because one thing led to another, one thing led to another. So to your, if my advice to you, Eddie, and everybody else is, if you have all of these ideas, or um, don't know what the stopping points are, and you're trying to figure that out, figure out what the first one is. Like, what can I'm going to use the word guarantee, which I'm going to be very careful about. But what can you guarantee that you could help somebody accomplish? So in your field, it's sales and marketing and building teams and all the other stuff that you do, let's say, right? So for an example, and just correct me if I'm wrong or interject, it would be like, a team comes to you and says, I need help to get better sales. Like, that's the bigger thing. They want to increase their sales 10x. And you're like, I can help you do that. And for you to do that, the people need to know how to talk on the phone better, or whatever. They got to stop using scripts in a cold way or something like that, right? And that's an expertise that you can teach them, how to be more empathetic and compassionate, and hearing somebody on the Zoom call, rather than looking at their notes waiting for somebody to shut up so they can say the same thing, right? So that's something that you teach. And then once they learn that, you can say, okay, now I'm going to show you how to respond to leads and emails, whatever. Like, so all these little things you can help. What I'm saying is, pick one. And if you're saying, like,
Hmm.
you know what, if they just sat in a room with me for a week and I showed them how to be on the phone and really bring that energy across, that's it. That's my
Hmm.
job, right? And so you can guarantee, and I'm very, like, air quotes with the guarantee, you're very confident that if they did this over time and you coach them, that they would get to the result of, like they would be confident. You know what? I feel really good on the phone. I'm not, and whatever that outcome is. Does that make sense? So
Makes
that's where
sense.
you start and that's where you stop. It doesn't mean you can't talk about, well, now you see what you learned here? You can apply that to your emails now. I'm not going to show you how to write the emails, but that's how you can apply it. And now you have to build a team in order to do the same thing. Now you can help people build a team, But at this point, maybe that's not what you do. You say, go and find someone else to recruit and bring A players in. But that may lead into your program expanding the more you get confident on each one of those points. Does that make sense?
Total.
So
Total, and
figure it
that
out.
and that's yeah, that's the decision that anyone has to make, right? Decide what is your superpower, what you're good at, what where that guarantee can come in, that you can actually achieve those results for the specific audience that you're working with, and decide to do that one thing.
Right.
And back to Lorna, it's and you we all go through that. It's really difficult to just stop at one thing,
Yeah.
but man, it just makes life better. In fact, it makes our success rate increase drastically, I believe, because you're known for that one thing.
Yeah, Eddie, that's why for me it's about dream clients. It's basically niche
The dream
clarity, like
clients.
getting very clear on
Yeah.
that, right? So
Yeah.
I know that if I sit with the person and they listen to me, I will get them absolutely crystal clear on who that is, so it helps them with all the other stuff. I can talk about all the other stuff. I can talk about ads and copywriting and all these other things and marketing messages and right? But once I step into my zone, I can hand them off to another person. Say, go do it with that person, go scale your business or whatever. Now, to this point, because as you know, I have my right marketing copy, which is like copy, how to write the marketing messages and all this. What I'm realizing now, after 4 years of doing this, is that, wait a minute, they're kind of the same thing because, right? The right marketing copy is all about the dream client. It starts at the dream client. If you don't know that, you can't write the right marketing copy. So now those pieces are weaving their way into Atlas, which never was before. You follow? So it's like,
Exactly.
yes, I can teach you about copy, but they don't come to me for copy. They come to me for clarity and connection to the dream client. How do I connect with those people? And the copy is weaved in to make the product or the service or whatever it is better because I am staying in my lane. But I don't have to now add more components of like, here's a copywriting course, here's an course, here's a this course, right? It's like, where's my product end and where can I use all of my superpowers that may have been in other places too to
Yeah.
incorporate, right? Lorna, do you agree?
Exactly.
I do. That's what happens when you listen to some feedback too.
Mm-hmm.
Like through the years that you've been doing Atlas, you've identified that that's something that would be helpful for people and
Mm-hmm.
found a way to use your superpowers to bring it in, as opposed to saying, "Oh, now jump over to that ship and I'll meet you there."
Yeah.
But I'll only be there for a little bit because I got to jump back to this ship to do this with these people. Like you're not jumping the ship. So
Yeah.
it's adding pieces. And I mean, we always get that knowledge, but you do, was it Nicholas Kuzmich that in Academy that like talked about like you need to be the king and queen of your like, so, that's why, at least in certain circles, in the circles I'm in, like Stu McLaren's the membership guy.
Mm-hmm.
Jeff Walker is the launch series guy. Ryan
Yep.
Levesque's the quiz guy. Like
Exactly.
everybody's your
Exactly.
guy, right? Joey's the dream client guy. Like that's where you want to be. You don't want to be the jack of all trades in launch guy, Lorna.
Yeah, this is amazing. I really thank you for being here and thank you for the short notice for both of you. You bailed me out again. I love you for that. I love you as friends. I love you as colleagues. I love you as clients. You're amazing. This is what, to me, dream clients are all about because you're like all of these components of how we interact with each other. And I wish you the best. I know we're going to be seeing each other, in a couple of days, but still, and throughout this year. But still, I still want to wish you the best of 2024 because we're just at the beginning of it. And is there any, I'm putting on the spot, but is there anything you want to declare that you guys
I
are going to
just
accomplish for 2024
oh,
and put it on record?
I was just going to declare that I love the three of us together.
There you go.
Okay, but now you guys have had time to think. Let's think of what we're going to declare for 2024.
let me let it's through my discovery and through this conversation has given me the encouragement to stick with what I know is true. And I I believe that this year for me is going to be a year to give back. Uh, I'm going to give. I want to give those upcoming individuals in the sales world to help them out and understand that sales is part of self growth. Um, I like to be known for the sales growth, but I'm committed to actually handing out a safety line, right? Or a safe saving somebody who is coming along behind me and letting them know that it's okay. Sales, it's if you've picked sales for your career, if you are into it, then congratulations, stick with it because it will help you develop your self growth. Um, so I'm not quite sure how that's going to happen. That's the whole idea, right? We
That's
just
okay.
talked about.
Yeah,
But I have this for it's been in my heart for much too long, and I believe that that's exactly what's going to happen in 2024. And now I have to go fight against sticking with one thing.
one thing at a time.
One
Yeah,
thing at a time. There you go.
Lorna.
that's it. That's it. Well, I mean, my commitments to keep moving forward with what I'm doing with the through line and finding a place for it, and just maintaining my own financial stability throughout that
Mm-hmm.
is a higher commitment for me. And that whole courage and competence and um, confidence is, I'm just going to jump over those steps up and down as they go and
Yeah,
be grateful for wherever I am in that.
that is so cool. So cool.
How about you,
Um,
Jerry?
yeah. Well, you know, when I asked myself this question, I'm looking always at 10x, and I say 10x not in a way of I'm talking about revenue. There's a whole paradigm and mindset shift and everything around 10x, and that's what I'm focused on moving toward. It's a scary, scary move, and to declare 10x now is scary for me, and I wish it wasn't, but it is, and the only reason is because to do 10x, and I'm talking about everything, and it doesn't always mean about growth. It means about getting more things back, right? Like removing things so you can get 10x more of time and freedom, whatever that is. So that's what it all means, which means that most of the things that you do that you're doing right now to be successful will not go through that filter. And when I read that line again and again and again from Benjamin Hardy and Dan Sullivan, it scares you because you've I've already gone through the commitment, the courage, like all the four C's to get to where I am, and then to get 10x for whatever in whatever areas you want, and all these things means that you have to let go of everything that you built up to now. So maybe the declaration is to go through the four C's again to
Mm.
commit to 10x by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's probably it.
If anyone has not read that book, you got to read it or listen to it. 10x is easier than 2x. I read it, Joey, when you told me about it, and yeah, it is scary. I mean,
Like there's no middle
it's a
ground
s-
when you read
there's
it.
no
Yeah.
yeah. It's like you're gonna take it for good or you're gonna hate it after you read it.
Yeah, like there's no I like this chapter, I'm gonna do these things but not
Mm-mm,
those things. And most of the
mm-mm,
books that I've read and everything else I've got to where I am today
mhm,
has been because I curated the best stuff for me and taken little bits and
mhm.
pieces and created Atlas and all these other things, right? But that's not what 10x is about. 10x is like you're in or you're out, and that's scary. So
Yeah.
there you go.
Awesome. You guys are great. I am
Thank
so
you.
looking forward to this year. We have to all, myself, everybody, we have to take one step at a time. And I'm just grateful that I'm still alive and you guys are still alive. So please, let's take care of ourselves.
100%. I'll see you guys next week for the next Heart Center Marketing. And yeah, let me just put the. I haven't done this whole show because it's been so epic. Put this in here. That's the Facebook group that Eddie, Lorna, myself are in. A whole bunch of amazing people who've already been here as well. Kay, Julie, Collie, a whole bunch of amazing human beings in this heart-centered Facebook group. If you're not part of it, please join us. Join in the conversation. We'd love to have you there. We will see you next Tuesday for another marketing. Is it Heart Center Marketing show? There you go.
Yeah.